The night pressed down heavy, suffocating in its silence except for the staccato bursts of gunfire that lit the valley in jagged flashes. The SEAL team huddled behind the fractured remains of a stone wall that had once belonged to some forgotten farmhouse, now just rubble under the moon. Dust and smoke hung thick in the air, clinging to sweat-soaked faces, stinging eyes already raw from hours of strain. Every man in the squad knew the truth. They were cut off, stranded in hostile territory, and the enemy had the high ground. Tracers streaked through the dark like fiery comets, slicing across the night sky. Each burst came closer, ricocheting off the rocks and sending shards into the dirt beside them. Ammunition was low. Morale was lower. The comms operator, knuckles white on the handset, tapped out the coded SOS with a grim precision, the beeps echoing faintly through the static. They had done it once, twice, 3 times. Each time, the answer was the same: nothing, no command, no extraction, no allied voice breaking through the night. Just dead air and the sound of their own breathing inside their headsets. A hollow kind of dread sank into their chests, heavier than the gear strapped to their bodies. The team leader crouched low, scanning the ridgeline through NVGs, the lenses painting the world in ghostly green. Enemy silhouettes moved up there, organized, confident, slowly tightening the noose. He muttered a curse under his breath, checked his weapon, and exchanged a look with his second in command. No words were needed. Both men understood the stakes. Any response. The leader asked finally, voice low, even though the enemy was too far to hear. The operator shook his head, jaw clenched. No one's listening. The words cut through the team sharper than any bullet. Silence followed, broken only by the rattle of distant gunfire. Somewhere out there, help might have been waiting, but it wasn't reaching them tonight. The men adjusted their positions, checked their dwindling magazines, and prepared themselves for the kind of fight that rarely ended with all of them standing. And yet, even in that silence, they kept sending the signal. SOS, pulsing out into the vast darkness, as if sheer will could force the world to answer. The valley swallowed the sound, indifferent. The night stretched on, endless, merciless. The radio hissed and popped, a broken rhythm that teased hope before dissolving back into static. Each man strained to catch a word, a syllable, any sign that someone was out there on the other end, but the net remained dead. The comms operator adjusted the dials with mechanical precision, thumb hovering over the transmit key. His expression tightening each time. The only reply was silence. He had done everything by the book. Frequencies checked, codes verified, encryption cycling. But the silence mocked him, louder than the gunfire that sporadically snapped across the valley. Time stretched in the dark. Seconds felt like minutes. Minutes dragged into small eternities. The team crouched low in the dirt, shoulders brushing against one another, their weapons held close like lifelines. No one wanted to say what they were all thinking. No QRF was coming. No air support. No reassuring voice from a command center hundreds of miles away. They were alone. The point man finally broke the quiet, his voice barely a whisper. No one's coming. He said it like a fact, not an opinion, as though speaking it aloud could cut through the denial hanging over the group. His words carried a weight that pressed down on every chest. The team leader glanced at him sharply, not with anger but with something close to desperation. He needed discipline to hold, needed silence to keep morale from crumbling. Still, he didn't correct him. Couldn't. He knew the truth too well. His men were trained for this, hardened by years of missions in worse places than this. But training couldn't fill the void where hope was supposed to be. A burst of enemy fire cut the silence, the rounds slamming into their wall of cover. Stone splintered, dust choking the air as fragments peppered their helmets. One of the younger operators flinched, his breath hitching as he hugged the ground. The older ones stayed steady, but their eyes carried the same flicker of doubt. The comms operator tried again. Breaker, Breaker, this is Steel 6. Do you copy? His voice was calm, professional, but beneath it trembled something raw. He released the key. Static. Nothing more. The silence on the net was no longer just absence. It was betrayal. The kind of emptiness that made a man wonder if he'd already been written off. The team hunkered down, trading grim glances, and for a moment the night felt colder, as if the darkness itself had turned against them. The operator's thumb lingered on the transmit key, though he no longer expected an answer. The static was relentless, whispering in his ear like a taunt. He let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding, shoulders slumping as he pulled the headset away. The team leader gave a quick hand signal for everyone to stay sharp. Whatever came next, they were on their own. Then, just as another round of gunfire cracked across the valley, the headset sparked with life. A voice, gravel, edged and calm, cut through the static like a blade. "This is Reaper. I've got your call." The operator froze, eyes wide. The men around him looked up, disbelieving. The leader snatched the headset. "Say again," he hissed. "I said I've got your call. Hold your positions. I see you." The words carried a weight, a steadiness that pushed back against the fear creeping in. The men exchanged quick glances. Relief mingled with confusion. Who the hell was this? No call sign matched, no unit identifier. Just that name, Reaper. It sounded like something out of a story, a ghost on the net. The leader pressed again. "Identify yourself. What's your station?" A low chuckle answered him, humorless but confident. "Station's a hillside about 600 meters northwest of your position. Don't bother looking. You won't see me. I've been out here a while. You tripped my ears with that SOS." The team fell into stunned silence. A retired operator, a mercenary, no one could tell, but the voice carried a tone only a man who had been where they could have. Calm in chaos. Precise. He didn't speak like command. He spoke like one of their own. "Listen," Reaper continued, the words clipped, direct. "Your opposition's working the high ground, moving to box you in. I've got eyes. First priority is thinning them before they get close enough to flood your cover. Keep your heads down. When you hear thunder, that's me." The leader hesitated, then nodded to his men. Whatever doubts remained, the alternative was certain death. Trusting a stranger in the dark was a gamble. But the voice on the radio didn't sound like a liar. It sounded like a man who'd already buried too many brothers. The operator tightened his grip on the handset, waiting for the next word. Outside the wall, the night shifted. Somewhere unseen, a ghost had answered their call. The hillside lay in darkness, broken only by the silver glow of the moon and the faint shimmer of heat rising from the valley below. Reaper lay prone in the grass, his rifle stretched out before him like an extension of his body. Every movement was deliberate, silent, the kind born from years of repetition until muscle and memory were one. He steadied his breathing, letting the world slow to the rhythm of his heartbeat. Through the scope, the battlefield unfolded in shades of green and shadow. He could see them, enemy fighters, confident, moving like predators toward the trapped SEAL team. They believed the kill was inevitable. Reaper knew otherwise. He adjusted his hold, finger brushing the trigger as he lined up the first shot. Distance just over 700 yards. Wind light, drifting from the east. Angle down. Perfect. He exhaled, and with the soft squeeze of his finger, thunder whispered through the night. The shot cracked, a sound that vanished almost instantly into the hills. In the scope, one silhouette crumpled, falling backward without a sound. The others paused, confused, unsure of what had just happened. Reaper shifted, already acquiring his next target. Another squeeze, another silent death. This time, the enemy shouted, pointing toward the ridgeline, but they were looking in the wrong direction. Reaper was already crawling inches to the side, keeping his firing position invisible. Inside the ruins of the stone wall, the SEAL team heard the distant cracks. They knew instantly what they were: the clean, precise rhythm of a professional sniper. Hope flickered in their eyes as they realized the ghost on the net wasn't just a voice. He was death in the dark, cutting a path for them. One by one, the enemy silhouettes began to fall. Reaper moved methodically, never rushing, never wasting a shot. Every trigger pull carried decades of experience, the instinct of a man who had lived too long in shadows. He spoke calmly over the net between kills. "Left ridge is clear. Watch your right flank." They're nervous now. The enemy fire grew scattered, panicked. Their advantage of numbers was dissolving into chaos. Reaper worked unseen, a phantom pressing against them from afar, until the valley no longer belonged to the hunters. It belonged to the man in the grass who answered when no one else did. Dawn crept slowly across the valley, washing the jagged terrain in muted gold. The gunfire had tapered off to nothing, leaving only the hum of wind through the ruins and the shallow, ragged breaths of men who had fought longer than they should have lived. The SEAL team emerged from behind their battered stone cover, weapons still at the ready, eyes scanning every shadow. What they saw was not the overwhelming force that had once threatened to bury them. The enemy was gone, broken, scattered, silenced by an unseen hand. Bodies littered the slopes, but no hostile movement remained. The comms operator pressed the headset tighter to his ear, listening for the voice that had carried them through the night. "Reaper, this is Steel 6, he called, voice hoarse but steady. "Confirm your position. We're ready to move." Static answered first. Then the familiar gravel edge slipped through. "You're clear. Head south by the riverbed. Extraction will find you there. Stay low. Stay tight." The team leader keyed the mic. "Coffee, we owe you. Save it." Reaper cut in. Calm, distant. "Get your men out. That's what matters." The line went quiet, as if he had already faded into the hills. The team hesitated, waiting, but no further instructions came. The leader gave the signal, and together they moved, following the path described. Every so often, they glanced back toward the ridge, where they believed he had been. But the hillside was empty, untouched by any sign of life. Hours later, the team reached the extraction point, where the thrum of rotors grew louder until a helicopter skimmed low across the horizon. Relief washed over them in a rush. But each man carried the same thought: they had survived because of a ghost. As they climbed aboard, the operator tried one last transmission. "Reaper, this is Steel 6. We're clear. We're out. You copy?" For a long moment, only static filled the channel. Then, faint as a whisper, the voice returned. "You boys owe me a beer." Reaper out. The channel clicked dead. The men stared at one another, silent, then turned their eyes to the fading ridge. Whoever he was, wherever he had come from, he was gone with the night. Only the dawn remained, carrying them home while a lone sniper melted back into legend.